All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. Wherever you are in this beautiful world, welcome to our Thursday morning Inner Circle Live session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. You'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen and Ms. Casey Jackson. I hope everybody's doing well today. We're going to dive in, get a review of the fundamentals, see where things stand after very, very, very interesting fundamental day yesterday. And we'll take a look at some charts. What we'll do is after we go over the fundamentals, you guys can drop some pairs in the chat that you'd like me to take a look at. And we'll take those pair requests first before we take a look at a couple that I want us to just to follow. All right. So as always, let's turn off all distractions, prepare your minds and your bodies to engage as you guys always do. And for the courtesy of everybody on the call, please ensure that your mic is muted if you're not actively asking a question or making a comment. All right. So let's get to it. Go. And if you can hear me okay, and if you can see my trend economic screen, drop me a 1 in the chat. Perfect. All right, so up front, economic outlook in the Euro area worsens. The economic outlook in the Euro area worsened with many negative risks materializing while Russia's war against Ukraine continues to negatively affect the European economy, setting it on a path of lower growth and higher inflation. The European Commission said in its summer 22 economic forecast, growth forecasts for the Euro area were lowered to 2.6% in 2022 and 1.4% in 2023, while inflation is seen higher at 7.6% this year and 4% in 2023. So things aren't looking good in the European area. We know that they're expected to come through with a 25 basis point rate hike. Some of these pressures, some investors are looking at the potential of them coming in higher, but we know overall the ECB is a little slower to be more aggressive. So we'll see how things continue to play out. We also know Christine Lagarde stated that she doesn't see a way that higher inflation isn't a norm in the Eurozone. So we'll continue to monitor the euro to see how things go from an inflationary and a growth perspective. All right. Oil falls. Oil prices fell almost 3% on Thursday, with WTI crude futures trading below 95 a barrel amid concerns that higher interest rates would cut fuel demand further. Higher than expected inflation reading raised the odds that the Fed will have to raise interest rates fast, with investors increasingly betting on a 100 basis point hike later this month. The EIA data released this week highlighted weakened U.S. demand, with product supplied falling to 18.7 million barrels per day, the lowest since June 2021. At the same time, China COVID curbs continue, which will probably weigh on demand even more. China's daily crude imports in June sank to their lowest since July 2018, as refineries anticipated a hit from the lockdown measures, according to Reuters. On the supply side, fundamentals still point to a tight market amid disruptions in Russia and Libya and spare capacity in OPEC. So there's this construction happening with the Nord pipeline, which is one of the major pipelines in Russia. And Russia made a statement yesterday that they're uncertain on the progress or when that pipeline will become available. So that's something also to keep in the back of mind. That construction is scheduled for 10 days, but Russia is starting to make statements of uncertainty. So that could also lead to a supply concern when it comes to oil coming out of Russia, which we already have some of those concerns already. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on oil as well as it continues to bounce back and forth. Dollar. The dollar index climbed above 108.5 on Thursday, hitting a fresh 20-year high, underpinned by expectations of even more aggressive Federal Reserve policy tightening and safe haven inflows spurred by recession fears. The data showed annual inflation rate in the U.S. surged to 9.1% in June of 2022, the highest level since 1981, and exceeding expectations of 8.8% increase, strengthening the case for higher and faster Fed rate hikes. Meanwhile, Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said everything is in play when asked by reporters if a full percentage point hike was on the table, while Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said there was no reason for raising rates by less than 75 basis points. The DXY is up more than 13% this year, with the euro hitting parity for the first time in 20 years, and the yen trading above 139 for the first time since 1998. All right. So got some interesting things happening, right? They're hinting at more aggressive. There's no reason for anything less than 75 basis points, right? Everything is on the table. The tone is starting to shift a little bit. So we'll see if investors are correct in betting on this full percentage point coming out towards the end of the month here. So we'll continue to monitor the dollar as well to see how things move. And when the New York session opens today, we'll see how investors respond to some of these comments overnight to see if more capital flows into the safe havens or if we move a little sideways until we get closer to this rate statement. Believe it, a week and a half. All right. So that's from a fundamental perspective there. Coming in today, we have PPI and core PPI for the United States. We already discussed the economic forecast for the euro. We have unemployment claims also for the United States. FOMC member Waller is going to be speaking at 11 a.m. Be interesting to see what those statements are to see if that has an impact on investor sentiment as well. And then as we look to tomorrow, we have core retail sales and retail sales, which is going to be another hot number or another important number to watch to see how people are spending their money, right? See if this will give the Fed more incentive to be aggressive or not. We have a Fed Chair Bullard speaking. FOMC member Bullard speaking tomorrow morning as well also. So their comments could be very interesting and they could definitely impact the market. So keep your eyes peeled to see how it goes. All right. So any questions from a fundamental perspective? No. Benny, good morning, bro.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, everybody. How are you, Ryan?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It seemed like Bullitt was right a long time ago, right?
Man, he was. He was.
He called for 100 basis points by June 30.
He's only a couple of days off.
Yeah, he felt like they were behind, and with the hikes a long time ago. So
yeah,
so like he was definitely right.
Definitely was, man. Definitely was. And what's interesting, right? That was kind of around the time when things really started to turn for the dollar too, and really started to push the upside. We had some spikes and things really started to push. So,
oh yeah,
definitely giving insight. So let's let's take a look at the dollar. And while I'm pulling up my charts, if you guys have any pair requests you want to take a look at, drop those into the chat for me. We'll take a look at the dollar. We'll take a look at those pair requests, and then we'll hop over and take a look at a couple pairs if we don't look at them that I want us to peek at and keep in mind. All right. So take a second and drop any pairs in the chat you want me to take a look at.
Good morning, Ron. I got a question about fundamentals.
Yeah. What's up, Jerry?
I come from a group that always said that fundamentals were not important. So I'm just letting you know. I'm telling you that, so I'm letting you know the mindset that I have to change. So I guess I don't understand how fundamentals play a part as far as if it's a negative news, does it means that the price is going to go down, or if it's positive, it's going to go up? So I'm just kind of fuzzy when it comes to fundamentals like that.
For sure. So the first thing I'll say is fundamentals are what drive all of this, right? None of this occurs if there isn't any fundamental data to make it a thing. So you're being said all the time, there's no technical level that will ever stand in the way of a fundamental occurrence, right? But what I suggest, because it all depends on the data point that we're looking at, but if you come over here into Forex Factory and you click on these folders, it breaks down what that data point is, right? And it'll tell you if, so like the rate statement, right? Interest rates at which major financial institutions borrow and lend overnight funds, right? Actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. Okay. So I would click on these folders and read through these. And also, if you have additional questions, right? Because like I said, it all depends on the data point on how it could impact the currency. But YouTube is a great source, right? As you're reading through and you're getting some information, type it in YouTube and in Google, and you'll get some good resources that you'll be able to get additional insight from. And if there's any specific ones, definitely let us know, and we can talk through it on these sessions as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is definitely where I would start to give you the definition of what it is and the immediate impact, or the potential immediate impact. And then if there's further questions, we can definitely talk through them. Thank you, Ryan. You're welcome. Ben, you got any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, they definitely do matter. A lot of times the folks that'll tell you that they don't matter, they'll tell you though, well, if you look at Forex Factory and you see a red folder, you should be cautious, or maybe not even trade if you see a red folder for that day.
True.
And so
yeah, that's true.
That tells you that fundamentals matter, right? It matters because they're telling you, be cautious, right? So a lot of times in the beginning, it's just because they don't want to take the time to learn it. And the only reason I say that is because if you watch, especially like a lot of these YouTubers, right, that really just jump online and they'll start to gain followers and things like that because they're just that, YouTubers, but they're still evolving, right? So they kind of drag people along. But if you follow a lot of them throughout the years, eventually it's crazy. They evolve to the point where they don't hardly use any indicators eventually. And then they change their tone on that. They go from scalping, where it's high pressure, high burnout, to, oh, now I'm a swing trader, and this is what you have to look at. And then they'll turn around and say, and evolve as they go through their videos and say, well, you got to pay attention to the fundamentals. This is like the natural progression, right, for traders. So it definitely matters. If you don't learn anything more about fundamentals than just interest rates, like that's the key driver. Like you're looking at interest rate divergence. When you look at all of your central banks, and then you look at something like the Japanese yen and their monetary policy to where they're not hiking rates, you see that everything continues to rise against the yen. So they absolutely do matter. Ryan made excellent points in where and giving you some key areas and where you can start taking a look at, clicking on the folders, reading about it, going to YouTube. You know, if you hear a term GDP, you know, go to YouTube, type it in. What's GDP? I mean, we covered in our platform. But you know, the knowledge and having knowledge of fundamentals is powerful if for nothing else than just giving you confidence in your technical analysis in regards to your overall directional bias for a setup, right? Because trading is all about psychology, it's all about confidence. So even if you're heavy on the technical side, fundamentals can give you that extra confidence that you need, that the extra confirmation, right? People always, especially technical traders, always talking about extra confirmation. Well, it gives you that confirmation that can definitely give you an edge in regards to what you're seeing already technically on the charts. So if I'm saying that I'm bullish, why am I bullish? Right? That the why matters, you know, in regards to you being able to get in a trade and actually holding that trade through to its next technical level, right? Having an understanding of the fundamentals can really give you an edge in that regard too.
Thank you. All that is so true, Benny. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Great question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome, man. All right. Any other questions from a fundamental perspective? Nope. All right. So we got some pairs dropped in. And let's take a look at this dollar first, right? So this is on the daily. The dollar's pressing. The extension is here, this thick red line, right? Making its way there. Okay. So definitely highly likely to hit that at some point, be it today, tomorrow, later on in the month. Dollar's still the dollar and is bullish, right? So the dollar's being used as that safe haven as investors continue to have some cautious thoughts, some cautious feelings, right? So that's where we're pushing on the dollar, right? Coming into a D extension. And then if we get, once we get a swing high, wherever it occurs, then we'll get a new AB boundary to form there. All right. So that's the dollar. Really quick, really easy. It's bullish, right? We'll take a look at oil quickly as well. Oil is pressing down still, right? Still inside this AB boundary, but we're coming into this weekly support level, right, at 92.88, which you talked about earlier in the week. We'll see if this level holds and we get prices to turn over and press to the upside, or if we get a breakdown and continue to press lower below that A boundary, right? But oil is pressing to the downside with a lot of those concerns that we talked about a little while ago, okay? So continue to watch this one as we get down to the 4. Obviously, just a big range that we're playing in. We're coming into the bottom of that range, right? Coming into the bottom of that range. So we want to see, does this level hold? And do we get a reversal and a press to the upside? Or on this 4-hour move to the downside here, these sub fibs, do we get to the matching D extension off of the 38.2 retracement here, right? Which is down at $86 a barrel. If that occurs, we're taking out that A, right? So watch this closely and see if this weekly level holds, or if we get that level broken. If it gets broken, then we're going to be headed lower. Okay, so keep your eyes peeled on oil for any short-term shifts in this one. Okay, we'll drop our trend lines like so and like so, right? Ensuring that we don't take out any wicks or bodies. Make sure that we get an accurate reading and a clean break if we get one, right? If it stays below the trend line, so allow that thing to stay below the trend line. All right. Any questions on the dollar or oil? All right, just a range play there. All right, so we had CAD Swiss. So here we go. on this CAD Swiss. This has been a fun one to watch, right? So overall on the daily time frame, we got a just shy of a 50%. So a 38.2% retracement here. Price pushed up, couldn't quite get to the D extension. We got this turnover and press down, right? Got the turnover and press down. So now we were watching this move to the downside here. We saw this nice reversal and press to the upside. Okay, now we're getting some reaction, a pullback that's occurring on the daily time frame. So we drop down to the 4, right? And look at our trend line coming to the downside. We tried to break above this level, right, to push higher, looking at potentially coming to this weekly resistance level and the 618 level here. Weren't able to quite get there just yet. Okay, so we're getting a pullback. We're getting a pullback to occur. All right. So this is off of the, this is off of our active fib to the downside here, right? A capital fib down, just a 38.2 retracement, ran into this trend line, tried to break through it, could not, pressing back lower. Okay, so the other thing we can take a look at, different perspective on this, right, is we can run our sub fibs from the low here, right? And this is what Benny broke down last night. Run our sub fib from the bottom, and we see we have shallow retracement, price stalled in this 118, 127 zone. Okay, so what this is telling us that we're headed for a deeper retracement here. Okay, headed for a deeper retracement. So if this back and forth confuses you, right, you can take out this capital fib and just look at this move here. Okay, and just look at this move here. Price was moving to the upside, and we ran into the trend line that we're trying to break through. Got the consolidation, rejection off the trend line, and we're headed lower. Okay, so now we'll watch this when it gets down to this daily level that it broke through, and down, if we can get down to this 50-61.8 level, and we'll see if we get a reversal. Now, if oil continues to press to the downside and potential concerns from investors continue to creep up, we may see this drift further, right? So we'll watch it as we get to these lower levels here in the fib. But right now, we're headed lower, right? So this sequence, shallow retracement, 118, 127, is playing out for us right now, right? It didn't break that level like we thought it would last night to get to that, get to these higher levels. We're getting a retracement to happen. So now we'll wait and see as price continues to press down here, right? We'll see how it responds at this 38.2 level, and then see if we get a 50 or 61.8 level, and if we get a reaction from there. Okay, so right now we're moving down in a retracement, right? This is a sub fib but up retracement zone, and we'll see if we get a stall and then a reversal and press back up there. Okay, if it doesn't, right, if then statements, if we break that level, look for price to continue to head lower, okay, until we get a reversal and a shift in that momentum. Okay, so that is the CAD Swiss, right? We're in this retracement right now, and we'll see how far we go and see if the Canadian dollar turns around at any point. Make sense?
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Can you put the down fib back on?
Yep.
Right. So
it looks like it did wick out at that 50% level.
Yeah, I just wanted to see it.
Yep.
I just want to see it. So yeah, right. It's wicking out at the 50% level. It's like you said, it's a risk sentiment play. But right, I wouldn't be shorting this for me, right? It's just an example of your trade rules because it hasn't reached my 61.8 level yet.
Exactly.
Right. So when you kind of get on the edge and you start to think, you know, should I take this short? Should I play it short? I've got a down fib running on this. It's got a pretty good pullback on it. You have to ask yourself, what are my rules? Do I take trades off the 50% level, or do I take trades off the 61.8 or deeper? Right. So in this example here, if I wanted to get short, if I was thinking bearish on this trade, I wouldn't be in the trade because my rules say I take trades at the 61.8, 786 level. to the downside in this example. So with this move down, I'm not in it short because it's not my level to take the trade short. So that's why rules are important. Now, does that mean that it's going to carry higher in the zone, give a deeper correction? So then potentially we could look at a short if the market switches to risk off, right? There's no guarantee there. Then I would just miss that setup if it continued to move to the downside. That just wouldn't be my play. But it's important that you stick to your rules wherever they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the key. That's the key, sticking to the rules. All right. Appreciate that, bro.
Yep.
Any questions on this, Caswas? No. Okay. All right. And we had Aussie CAD. You're welcome, Bradley. Aussie CAD. So let's take a look here. Pull that out. That's what we're looking at overall. Still downward movement, getting the retracement though. So here we are on this Aussie CAD, price pressing to the downside, right? Overall, we're down, right? So we're in a down retracement zone, okay? We want to see, right, how far this retracement comes. Do we come back and retest this monthly and daily level here? Or are we able to push up to get to at least that daily 38.2, which we like, right? So kind of hovering a little bit, double bottom type scenario here. We got some sideways movement. Now we're trying to get a push to the upside, right? We got oil pressing down. We did get some hawkish news yesterday for the Canadian dollar when it comes to the interest rate hike of 100 basis points or 1%, right? Which beat the estimate, right? But oil, which is tightly tied to the Canadian dollar, is falling, right? You also have recession fears, which is causing those commodity currencies to still take a back seat, even though interest rates are being increased, right? Now, here you have two commodity currencies with the Aussie and the CAD. So it's a matter of which one is stronger at the time, right? You have iron ore that's also taking a beating. So here we could continue to see somewhat of a back and forth for a little bit as price just moves kind of where the wind is blowing, depending on which gets the most positive news at the moment, right? So right now we're pressing to the upside just a little bit here, trying to get a push higher. As we drop to the 4, okay, now we got our trend lines drawn, pressed down, right? Here on the 4, we got a 618 retracement, right? Got kind of a double top scenario here, rejection off the trend line, pressed down, came down, right? Didn't quite get to the D extension here on the 4, which is this red line, right? And we're just moving sideways, okay? So we press back up, we're coming back into this trend line. So the question is, does this trend line hold, right? And then we get this press back down to get to that 4-hour D extension, or do we get a break of the trend line and a press higher, right? So right now it's just a wait and see, right? No trade on it. We want to see, do we press higher or do we press down to get to that D extension? I'd love for price to turn over and continue this move to the downside. That would be my preference, which doesn't matter in this case, right? It's all about what the market wants to do. So we'll see how the market responds at this trend line and see if we get a nice break and a push higher, or if we get that rejection and that continuation to the downside. Overall, my bias on this pair is short. We could be in for a retracement of some sort at some point. Don't know when that'll be, but overall, short would like a high price to add to my trade to continue down. But if we don't get it, we'll just continue to the downside. All right. So no trade at the moment. Looking to see what price is going to do in this range that is currently playing in. Okay. Did all that make sense? Okay. Okay. Cool deal. Any questions on this Aussie CAD? Cool deal. Let's see what else we had come through. We'll take a look at had some yen pairs come through. So we'll take a look at these yen crosses. We'll start with the Aussie Yen. All right, this is an interesting play, right? So from a daily time frame, we got a 38-2 retracement, right, which we love. Price pushed up to this daily resistance level, and we started to get this breakdown, right? Came down, and we've just been moving sideways here in between this daily resistance and this daily support, right? We've got this nice push up between last night and this morning, and we're getting a reaction now. We'll see how the market fares throughout the day to see if this continues to press higher to move up and break above this level, okay? But right now it's just moving sideways. So if we drop down to the 4, Benny identified this last night, but we got a crown pattern potentially forming and playing out here, right? Right here. Right. So what we also got here, right? We dropped the trend line to the downside. We want to see, do we get a trend line break? And we did, right? We got a trend line break, nice bullish push, came into this daily level. Now we're getting a pullback. So again, the question is, does this trend line hold? And do we get price to turn around and continue its press to the upside, right? Or do we break back below the trend line and continue down, right? So that's what we want to continue to watch to see. This daily level is serving as a strong resistance. We want to see if we get price to turn over and press to the upside and break above that for this continuation to the upside to complete this crown pattern, okay? So we'll watch throughout the day to see if we get that follow through to occur here, right? But that's what we see on this Aussie Yen on the 4-hour time frame. We'll see if we get that continuation, that move up, right? If it does, this is the fib that will track, right? That harmonic fib. We got a 50% retracement, matching the extensions up here at 102.825, right? Monthly level, be a longer move to the upside, got some levels to break through, but we could be headed there if we get some follow through and start breaking these levels as we move to the upside, right? It will call for some of the risk sentiment to back off a little bit and investors to start moving their money back into some riskier assets. So we'll see how things play out over the next couple of days. All right. But that's where we sit on the Aussie Yen, right? Looking to see if this trend line is going to hold, that break above, and see if we get some follow through and push to the upside. Okay. Any questions on the Aussie Yen?
Nope.
All right. Cool deal. We had pound yen. We'll grab that euro yen too. All right, so pound yen, similar deal, right? Similar deal. We got a 50% retracement here on the daily. 50% on the daily. Double top scenario, price pressed down, could not break below this daily level. Got a ton of wicks happening here, but we couldn't break below. Now we're pushing back to the upside, right? Back to this last daily level, right? And we got some wicks happening here. So we want to see, are we able to close above this daily level for this continued press to the upside, okay? This is going to be pretty key, I believe, this daily level. If we close above it, next level is going to be, actually, this is a daily resistance here as well. Next level will be here, okay? So that's what we want to see. Do we close above this daily level and continue to press higher and track towards the matching D extension here at 174, okay? We know the yen and the Bank of Japan have not made any changes when it comes to the monetary policy, but capital has been flowing into the yen as a safe haven, right? Yesterday we had the GDP numbers for the UK come in above expectation, so that gave a boost to the pound, right? So we want to see if there's some follow through there, and if we get price to continue to press to the upside. Okay, so as we drop down to the 4, right? I was looking at a potential head and shoulders pattern here. It was on a smaller wave sequence, did not play out. We got a break of the trend line and we pressed deeper, right? So this is what that double top on the daily, this is it right here, okay? So we want to see, are we able to continue to press above and continue to move up, right? Or does this double top hold and serve as a resistance level? And do we get a move back below this daily level that we're watching to see if that daily candle closes above? Okay, got a strong push on the 4 into the trend line. Now we're getting some consolidation. So we'll see if we get price to turn over or if price carries here and gives us this deeper retracement. Okay, but that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. We want to see if we get price to carry deeper, or if we turn over and press back down to the downside. Right now, if this down fib, we're at a 618 retracement, but off the daily, we know, right, price could press higher, seeing as we got a 50% retracement. Okay, my bias on this overall is short. It's just a matter of when price turns back over and presses to the downside, more based off of risk sentiment play, and if investors continue to move capital into safe haven currencies, right? So that's my overall bias. And so it depends on how much of a retracement we continue to get, right? If we take out this A, I'll take a look and see if I need to change my overall sentiment on the yen crosses. But we're not there yet for me, in my rules, right? So we'll see how the market responds here with this double top. Let's see if it holds or if we press above and continue to ride to this next daily level. Okay. So right now, again, we're sideways, right? Got a nice bullish push. If you're not in this already, right? Wait to see, right? You got that break of that trend line there and price push to the next trend line. So what I'd wait to see here is, like I said, if that daily candle closes above this daily was resistance, now support level, right? Do we close above this? And then do we get follow through and continue to press higher, right? If throughout the day-to-day we get this turnover and press back below, we could look for some more bearish pressure coming in and we could see this continue to fall. Okay, so if then statements. And we're also hovering at this down trend line here as well, right? So we'll continue to monitor all of these pieces to see how this pair how this plays out, right? Benny, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I think I'm looking. It may push sideways, but I've been bullish in it for the time being, just because I expected a little boost from the pound after the news yesterday. But it's one that I'm keeping that stop tight on it. I'm continuing to manage the trade on this one, because I'm looking at it this morning. Your commodity currencies they're getting pressure. If you look at things like the Euro CAD, you look at your Aussie pairs, the commodity currencies are catching some pressure. So that's telling me something about the sentiment this morning. So like you said, that the risk off scenario could intensify. So I'm just paying close attention to it, keeping my stops tight on it, just rolling my stop up. And then if it decides to reverse out and come down, it'll stop me out in profit on this pound yen. But it's hard to tell right now.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Reese, what determines whether or not I change my sentiment? A couple things from a technical perspective. If this A gets taken out, right, that tells me we could be in for a price to continue to press to the upside. The other thing is, from a fundamental perspective, currently investors have some uncertainty, right, and they're concerned about a recession, and that's a widely known sentiment. So if that sentiment changes from an investor's perspective, if data comes out that says the cost to produce products is way below the expectation, and if something happens from if someone comes out and says the Fed doesn't have a reason to be that aggressive, we could see an emotional response to that, right? And that could push things higher. So those are the two things that I'm watching, right? Investor sentiment and what's happening from a fundamental perspective. And does this A on the 4-hour get taken out, right? If those two things happen, then I'll go back and I'll reassess. If they don't, I'll continue to sit in my short trades and look for opportunities to add to that short play that I have. Does that make sense? No doubt. All right.
Quick question. You're playing this strictly from the 4-hour. Can you go to the 1 hour? I wonder.
Absolutely. Take that out. That's no longer valid. Take that out. Close the above. There you go. So on the 1, this is where you're sitting. At the top of this fib sequence here, just inside that A boundary.
Okay. So could you have, okay, I got it. Because I was going to ask, could you have pulled a sub fib on this?
Yeah, you could have, absolutely, right? Run it from the low here like that. You hit your D extension here. Bang.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right.
So you got a D extension just inside that A boundary. Now you're getting price to turn over. You got to swing high there, so your next fib would run like this. Okay. So that's your sub fib sequence to the upside inside of that 1 hour, inside that 1 hour fib. All right, so we got a new AB boundary here. We want to see, do you get that deeper retracement or shallow retracement pushed into this 118, 127 zone, right? If that occurs, that takes out your A. Now this is your capital fib sequence running to the upside.
Okay. Now, can you go back to the 4 hour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So looking at it on the 4 hour, initially, because price is going down, you pulled your fibs going down. But at this point, where it passed below that B point, it actually okay, no, that wasn't shallow though. Okay. So because of, I'm just trying to be able to articulate the flow of what's going on. Okay. So right now you're at a standstill because one, you have that resistance, the green box, and then you don't know if it's going to close above that trend line. So you're at basically indecision on this. And from a 4 hour perspective, you're not acting on it until you get some answers.
Yeah. So the other thing too, right? So to visualize where you are, right? So you got a 608 retracement initially off this down fib, right? Price pressed to the downside, but wasn't able to fully break out and get to the matching D extension. So when this occurs, right, in your mind, that could be a signal to say, hey, we could be moving into consolidation, right? Because we couldn't break the A boundary, got a deep retracement, or we got a retracement period, but we also weren't able to break to the other side to get to the matching D extension. Price reversed. So that could be an immediate signal to say we could be moving into some sort of consolidation, right? And then as price pushed back inside that A boundary, now you see this back and forth occurring. So now we're pressing back to the top of this potential range, right? And that range looks like this, right? So that's that sideways movement that we have. So now it's a question of, do we continue to press higher and break out of that to the upside, or do we turn back over and press back down? Does that make sense?
It does. I'm getting it. The light bulb slowly coming on.
Hey, that's a beautiful thing, right? It's about progress.
Yeah.
It's about progress, one step at a time. One step at a time. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have any other questions on that?
Hey, Ryan.
Yes. Metis, what's up?
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Good.
I have a question. When you go back on 1 hour, if you plot the fib from, so if you plot the fib like you're going up, one fib is already complete. We hit the D extension
Same
already.
here.
Yeah, we hit the extension. Was another fib supposed to be automatically show up already?
Yeah, sometimes the algorithm is a little delayed, right? That's why I went ahead and drew it manually. But it'll pop in at some point. But yeah, that fib would be here like that.
Oh, because I've been practicing and then sometimes I don't see them and I'll be running all day. I figure maybe I made some mistake.
Yeah, no, sometimes the algorithm is just a little delayed. So when you see that, just go ahead and draw it manually, right? That's why it's extremely important to understand the fib sequence and how to identify it, right? Understand where that new AB boundary would be so that you can go ahead and draw those manually in the event that you need to.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? Great questions, guys. No? All right, cool deal. So that's the pound yen. So that's what we want to see, right? Do we see follow through and continuation to the upside, or do we see this thing turn over at the open and continue pressing down here, right? So that's the question. We had a dollar yen come through as well. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see. I have to clean this up a little bit. It's not one that I trade a lot. So we'll clean this up, we'll bounce out and we'll see, right? Present to that D extension though, here on the 4. So let's go back daily. Clean these up. All right, so clearly we're pressing to the upside, right? I have this 140 level marked. That's a level that's been talked about, thrown around as speculation on when the Bank of Japan could come in and potentially intervene. So that's why I have that level marked. We run our fibs here on the daily time frame, and that's what we got. That's what we got. We got shallow retracement, prices pushed into this 118, 127 zone, right? Just shy of that $140 mark. So this will be an interesting one to watch just to see, right? Do we get a shift in tone and a shift in sentiment to see potentially some profit be taken on this particular pair? Because the thing about this dollar yen is both get used as a safe haven, right? And when the dollar is raging, the dollar will most times take precedent in this pair. And then sometimes you'll get some long-term consolidation areas. So that's why I don't trade this one a lot, but it still moves in the waves, right? Still moves in waves, just the same. So pushing into this 118 and 127 zone, just shy of that speculated level of $140. And so we'll see, right? We've got a strong push into that level. Now we want to see, does that level hold, this 118, 127? And do we get a turnover and a press back down and give us a deeper retracement, right? So that's the question. That's the question, right? But right now, bullish in a strong fashion on this pair. So as we drop down to the 4, let's drop down to the 4, zoom out, look at it from that perspective as well. We'll come back and run our fibs here. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Here. There we go. So here on the 4, looks like it came just shy of 38 to retracement, right? And you're just shy of the D extension of the 1618, right? So another press higher, this 4-hour D extension will be achieved, and you're right in that 118 and 127 zone on the daily time frame, which is at about right there. Okay, so now the question is, right, once that D extension is hit on the 4, do we get a reversal? Do we get a reversal, right? Do we get a swing high and a reversal to form? Okay, so this one right now, just sitting tight, allowing it to press higher because it's continuing to press higher, and we'll see how high ultimately it goes, right? And do we get a reversal at some point? Okay, so be patient on this. Allow it to continue to press as it's going to press, and we'll see if this $140 level actually materializes as a level of interest. Okay, but just shy of the 4-hour D extension right now. Once that gets hit, then we'll see if we get some turnover and we start to break some trend lines to the downside. Okay. But right now there's no play. We want to sit and watch it though, because it's right in that 118, 127 zone on the daily time frame, which could serve as a key area in this particular case for price to turnover. Okay. So just watch it right now. But as long as it stays pressing to the upside, allow it to continue to press to the upside. Okay. But we'll watch on that daily time frame for that 80-20 setup. Okay. Any questions on this dollar yen? No. All right. Cool deal. Cool deal. Let's see. We'll take a look at this Euro JPY, round out these yen crosses. Take a look at the New Zealand yen as well. So on this Euro yen, right? Looking at overall, right? This is a sub fib that I dropped on there. Pull that out for a second. Overall, didn't quite get to that 38.2 yet, right? Just came shy, pressed to the upside, wasn't able to get to the matching D extension, that 1618 extension there, right? Double top, pressed down. Strong move to the downside. Now we're retracing, right? Coming back into this weekly resistance level, right? Was support. Now resistance served as support. Now potentially serving as resistance. We'll see, right? But we're pressing to the upside, right? We're retracing. So as we drop down to the 4, right? Look at this from, let me just double check these fibs here. Yep, there we go. So we got a couple ways to take a look at this, right? Moving to the upside, right? Price has been pressing strong to the upside as everything has run against the yen for quite some time. So overall, that sentiment is bullish, right? And we're getting this consolidation that's happening now, right? But we got a 38 to retracement. The matching D extension is the 1618 level here, right? So if we continue to break levels to the upside, right, we could get to this matching extension at some point, right? But we want to see how the market responds in this zone, okay? So currently, as we zoom in to this move, we're here, right? Pressing down, right? And we're retracing. So if we just look at this section here, we got a couple of things happening. Some Benny pointed out last night, right? So here we had this consolidation happening. We had this U-shaped curve here, and then we got this push to the upside, right? Came right in just shy of that 50% level in conjunction with this weekly resistance and this down trend line, okay? So this U-shaped action right here is one of interest, As we get down to that 1 hour time frame, we'll take a look at it in more detail, okay? But we got a 50%, just shy of a 50% retracement here. We want to see, does this zone hold as resistance? And do we get price to turn over from here and continue pressing back down to the downside, ultimately getting to this sub fib D extension down here at 134. Okay, so that's what we're looking at to see again, right? These trend lines. Does this trend line hold for us along with this weekly resistance level, right? They're coming in conjunction in that same zone. Okay, so what played out last night, though, as we get down to this one, is here we go. This cup and handle formation, right? And Benny said we want to see, do we get a breakout to the upside, right? And we did. That mug pushed. It pushed to the upside. So this formation, which is generally saw on the stock side, right? This cup and handle played out, and we got the breakout to the upside, and price pushed, right? And then ran right into that downtrend line. So that move played out to the upside. Benny talked about it last night on the session. Okay, beautiful move. Off that, 150 pips to the upside, right? So beautiful play there. And that played out. So now we want to see, does this resistance level hold? And do we get price to press back down? Or do we get a break of the trend line and a continued press to the upside? So that'll be, it'll kind of determine on that risk sentiment, right? Do investors continue to have concern and play with caution and move capital into the yen, or do they not? Right. So we'll see how this weekly level holds in this downtrend line. Okay. To help us make some determinations on if we're going to see this play back down to the downside. Okay. So that's the euro yen on the 4 hour, just shy of a 50% retracement. I'd love if we got another push to the upside to get to the 618 level, right? I would love to be able to add to my trade. And this is another one that I'm short on, right? But I'd love to be able to add to the trade up here in the sweet spot. So we'll see if that occurs. If it doesn't, that's okay, right? Price continue moving to the downside. We'll get another wave sequence and we'll be able to play it again from there. Okay. So that is the euro yen. Any questions here? Yes.
Yes. Could you go back to the 1 hour again?
Yep.
Okay. So based on when price hit that daily level down at the 136, right there, you could have pulled a fib from there, a sub fib from there as well, going back up. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to see how that looks.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And the other thing to take a look at here too, right? If you don't run those sub fibs just yet, but right, we have classic structure that we look at, right? Shallow retracement, price pushed to the 118, 127 zone. We got this sideways movement, tried to get to the D extension, but didn't quite do it, right? You also didn't get a strong trend line break that we look for, right? Just kind of pushed and lingered. So we adjust that trend line to the outermost point, price pressed down. Here it gave you a trend line break, right? Then gave you another deeper push, but you got your trend line break there. And then you got some more consolidation, and price now pushed in your favor. So you still have this 80-20 play also playing out here, right?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yep. But you absolutely could run that sub fib there and look at it go, right? So you got your sub fib running, because that would have been your swing low there. So you could have swing low, then your swing high would have been there, right? And once that formed, right, this area here, once that 5 candle formation formed there, right, then you would have been able to run that fib to the upside to see this play out, which again, shallow retracement, 118 to 127 zone. You got your deep push. Yep. Your pullback there, 8-6 retracement. Now you see it take off back to the upside. Okay, right. Got it. So and that's another thing too, right? All of these small, when you're running these sub fibs, these are also plays that you can play. Right. These are also trades that you can take. Shallow retracement, bang, you could have taken that trade. Right. Price push to the 118, 127, right? Move to the downside, 187 pips. You could have played that, right? Or wait for that price to push down. And if you're just playing those sub fibs, you can do it here on the 1, or you can drop down to the 15, but run your trend line to the downside, right? Like so. You get a trend line break there. You got an 8-6 retracement, matching extensions at 118 level, right? And you could have taken this trade as well, right? Taking that trade, taking that to the upside. Okay. Right. So all of those smaller moves you can absolutely play if you're looking to take some shorter term opportunities, right? And not hold it for a day, 2 days, a week, what have you, right? So the sequence is the same regardless of whether it's the larger fib, the capital fib, the sub fibs, and regardless of the time frame.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. On the higher time frames, can sub fibs be run in the same direction? They can. As you're looking at those smaller waves, it all depends, right? So we a lot of times you'll see us take a C, right? So we got AB shallow retracement 118, 127, and we got this 50% retracement here, right? So sometimes you'll see us run a sub fib from the C as we're playing the waves to the upside from that C to the D extension, right? You'll see us do that quite a bit. I think one of them was on this this dollar CAD. I believe we did that on. But that's the way that you can do it, is once that C is identified and that swing low occurs. Let's go to the daily. And that swing low occurs, then you can run those sub fibs on it to map those smaller waves out, right? Was that back here? I want to say that was back here, right? And we had this form and push here. You can then run sub fibs, that's your C off of that move, and you can run your sub fibs like this, right? Looking at those smaller waves as they play out as you push things, as price pushes in that direction. So you can absolutely do that. Just understand that ultimately those smaller waves are the waves that you'll be looking at on the lower time frame, right? So you have your overall direction. So another way that you can do it is just copy that fib like this, right? And then drop down to your lower time frame, be it your 4 hour or 1 hour. Now you have that capital fib that you're looking at from a daily time frame perspective. And now you can run your sub fibs off of it like that to play those waves if you want to do it like that, right? That's one thing I'm looking at on, who was the CAD Yen? Beautiful push. So on this CAD Yen, right, I'm looking at this scenario like this, right? So I've taken this daily fib, I've copied it, and I've taken this fib down to my lower time frames. Right. So now on the lower time frames, I see that daily fib. Since we only got a shallow retracement, we got this consolidation as 118, 127 zone, sideways push. So now I'm mapping everything off of that. And I can then, if I wanted to, if I wanted to, I could run sub fibs off of this here, starting at the low, and just mapping them out like that to play the smaller waves within this structure as price continues to move. Right? So I have my overall direction. I'm looking at this daily 38.2 level here, like so, right? And now on the smaller waves, I can say, okay, we got this 118, 127 push. I could have taken that trade to the downside. That could have been an indication for an entry opportunity for me to the downside. And I can play those smaller moves within that consolidation if I wanted to, right? On smaller waves. Can also drop down to the 1 hour time frame and do the same thing, right? Because that's that daily fib there, right? This longer one. And these are my smaller waves within, right? Those are my smaller waves within that daily fib. So now, right, if you come in here, right, take that out. And these are smaller waves within the consolidation, run it from the low, AB boundary, price pushed up to this monthly resistance level, bang, break down to the downside, right? So all still within that daily fib, because ultimately I'm looking for opportunities to either enter the trade or add to my trade as it continues to move to the downside, looking for, at the end of the day, this daily fib to play out at some point, right? At some point. And in the meantime, you can play those smaller waves until you finally get the breakout that you're looking for. If you're looking at taking those smaller trades, right? If price breaks this daily support level, right? That could give you an opportunity there, pull back, break and retest to enter this to the downside, ultimately making its way to that daily 38.2 level, right? So you can definitely do that. I would suggest copying it and taking it down to the lower time frame and running those fibs off of the lower time frame, just so it's a little bit cleaner and you can see it a little bit easier. Make sense?
Yes. So the key in what you're doing is you're just making sure you're mindful of where that D extension is on the daily. Well, the fibs themselves. So as you take those smaller waves, you know where you are in the bigger picture.
Exactly, right? The higher time frame fib gives you your overall directional bias, right? And it tells you whether you're in a retracement zone, right? Or you're in an extension.
Yeah.
And here, right, we got shallow retracement 118, 127. So I'm looking for price to move into this up retracement zone, right? And to see if these levels hold to give us that move back to the downside. But yeah, so this gives you your overall bias. And now you can make that determination on if you take a trade on the 4 hour and just hold that as it moves through its cycles, or you take a trade off the 4 hour or the 1 hour and you just play the smaller waves, right? If you just play your deep retracements, I'll just take a 6-1-8 retracement and play that to the downside in the direction that you're looking for price to move as it moves to the downside, right? Or if you just want to take 118, 127s and play your counter trend plays, right? So as price moves down in your favor, right, and you get your fibs to form to the downside, now do I just play, right, 118 to 127s and just play the counter trend back to the 38.2?
Okay.
Right? But you know, ultimately, directional bias is down, and you know that these moves are just going to be short term.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those are all things as you start to write your rules and get comfortable with the type of trade that you're going to be and the type of trades that you're going to take within the sequence. Those are things that you can build into your trading plan on how you play this thing and in the trades that you're going to take consistently, right? So that's how you can build it out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Ben, you got any thoughts on that fifth question? Or anything to add to that?
No, sir.
Cool deal. Any questions on anything that we covered this morning?
I have a question, but it's outside what we covered this morning.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I was drawing some support resistance yesterday morning practicing, and I was on I think it was USD Swiss franc, and suddenly I saw this candle in 15 minutes, very huge candle, like 70 pip. If that happened to the entry, what are you gonna do about it? That's the big candle I never saw.
If it happened when?
I think it was yesterday morning around 7 o'clock. Yeah, you see that can? Yeah. So if you have a situation like that, and then are you gonna take an entry with that candle? Because to me, it looked like it's so big candle.
So it's gonna be based on your rules, right? What are you trading? So you got to also understand what's happening around this time. There was news that came out yesterday morning, if I'm not mistaken, right? You go back to yesterday, 8 o'clock or 8:30 had CPI data come out, right?
Okay.
So you got to understand what's happening around that time and what the market could be potentially preparing for, right? That's an 8:30 candle, right? But also it's going to be based on your rules and what are you trading, right? So no, I wouldn't take a move off of an impulsive candle. I'd take a look at my rules and have my rules been met for an entry would be the question that I'm asking, right? And so if you're down on the 15-minute time frame, what are the rules that you're following on the 15-minute time frame, and does this meet your rules?
Oh, okay.
You follow me?
Yeah.
So you don't want to just take trades because you got a bullish candle in a particular direction, right? Because you're going to get bullish candles all day long, right? So are you going to take 75 trades just because it's a bullish candle? No, not necessarily. No, right? Does it meet your rules? Because here, right, you take this trade off this bullish candle. Oh, I'm buying this because it's the strong move to the upside. You enter this thing right here. Now you're in drawdown, right? It comes all the way back against you 50 pips.
Yeah.
You may not have planned for that and you might have over leveraged. So now you've blown your account, right? Instead of looking at it and say, okay, are my rules met in this scenario, right? Depending on what your rules are. So if you ran your fib off of this high here, okay, does this trade meet my rules for buy entry? Well, if I'm buying this, and this is a high price, do I want to buy at a high price?
No.
No, right? So you don't want to buy that there, right? You would have been looking to buy down here off of a trend line break. So you got a trend line break. That's a strong candle. It's a high price. You don't want to buy that. Let's see if we get a pullback. If we get a pullback to a low price, now this could be an opportunity for me to enter this trade, right? If we were on a trend lines like so, trend line would have come down like this, right? You got your trend line break. Now you get your pullback, okay? Trend line break and your pullback. So now you got a swing high that formed, right? Off of this strong bullish candle. So let's run a fib to the upside here. And let's wait for a nice deep retracement into our sweet spot. And now let's look for this entry to the upside, right? You wouldn't have entered there. That gave you the indication, okay, price could be ready to change directions, a lot of momentum. Let me wait for a low price, a pullback into my sweet spot, which you got an 8-6 retracement here, right? Bang, price came down into your sweet spot. So now my rule says I enter between the 618 and that a boundary, right? 618, 786, 86. You got that price to push down there. That's an entry opportunity for you. So now that buy opportunity, your risk is limited. Stop below the A, right? Now you're only risking 12 pips in this scenario, right? You're matching the extension is the 118. You're risking 12 pips for 64 pip, 65 pip move, right? So no, you don't want to enter on those. You want those to be an indication for you. Say, okay, let me see what's happening, right? And then let me see if my rules are met. And then what are your rules that you're following? If you don't have rules, you want to ensure that you go back into the training, go through that rule section to ensure that you have rules that you're trading by. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Any other questions? No? Benny, you got anything before we close out, bro?
No, sir. Great session. Look forward to seeing everybody tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Have an awesome, awesome Thursday. We'll see you tonight. Peace.
Thank you.